Hello everyone, Tenno Ranger here, today with another video. This video today is a special video. Another character, another fan-made lore backstory for a Tenno. Yes, they're all the same Tenno. It's one Tenno, different looks, but the stories that I make up for each of them, they all have a unique backstory. This one is the Tenet Hunter. Now, the Tenet Hunter is one who utilizes the Excalibur Umbra. Now, this is very unique because this is the only Tenno out of all the Tennos that I utilize and as stories that I make, fan-made stories, where the warframe is sentient, which means it has somewhat control of its own actions. So as you go into the operator or drifter mode, the warframe will actually go and do its own thing and help you out in the mission, whether it's using its primary, secondary, or melee weapons and abilities to help you defeat enemies in missions. Now, Umbra, Excalibur, Umbra, however you want to pronounce it and say it, this is the warframe that the Tenet Hunter uses, and his story is mainly hunting down the Sisters of Parvos. And with that being said, as some of you have already seen, the weapons he utilizes is the Tenet Cycron, the Tenet Envoy, and the Tenet Grigori. I'm not too sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It's that, Tenet scythe looking weapon that you buy from, I want to say it's Ergoglast, and one of the relays. When you hunt enough Sisters of Parvos or Kubalich, you can use those corrupted keys to purchase a Tenet melee weapon. I just found that out, 10 years into the game. Ridiculous, I know. Or however long the Sisters of Parvos update has been on, but still. It's really fun. I like the look that I went with. It still gives off a cybernetic corpus / infested look for Excalibur Umbra. Now, if and when you go into operator mode or drifter mode, however you want to go, well, he's technically operator because he's a child version of the Tenno. The Excalibur Umbra is still cooking. He just wipes out enemies on his own, can take on mobs with the weapons that he has. That Tenet Envoy is surprisingly hilarious and fun to use. Yes, there's only limited amount of ammo, which makes sense because it's a devastating weapon, does massive area of effect damage to any enemies that are nearby. So I can't imagine starting to use that with a Spectre loadout or even a Celestial Twin, which I'm probably most likely going to do because I am a Wukong main. But this is the Tenet Hunter. Really fun, hilarious setup. It's an enjoyable build. I don't get bored. It's a lot of the weapons are all really good. I was able to mod and set them up for specific mission. Well, not even specific missions, just most missions. A well-rounded loadout where if I want to do more melee attacks, I can. If I choose to go just secondary or primary weapons throughout a mission, I can. And if I don't want to use any of that, I still have the Exalted Blade, which is still OP. As long as you don't get hit and you kill enemies faster than they can kill you, then you're set. Although he is a glass cannon in a sense, it's still very much doable in Steel Path with the Exalted Blade. Just runs around, do insane amount of damage with the Exalted Blade. As long as you're running around, slicing and dicing, you will be able to take on Steel Path enemies in any mission. Now, yes, it's a good loadout. I like the colors I had chose for the Warframe and also the Operator. And I really try to go with a more menacing look for the Operator. He's actually supposed to be more headstrong, goes for a headstrong approach, the more physical physically powerful Tenno. I try to give the look of a more intimidating show or display of power type of look for the Tenno, because if you when it comes down to it, any faction that has to go up against a Tenno, the idea of it is terrifying, but it is awesome. And yes, Excalibur Umbra, just it was a really nice touch to the way I made this character up. So yes, the Tenet Hunter, yeah, it does exactly what the name implies, hunts all the tenants, the Sisters of Parvos, and collects all tenant weapons from said Sisters of Parvos, converts them, or slays them, whichever one the mission or the way the hunt goes. Collects ephemeras, weapons, or just converts the liches or the Sisters of Parvos, and it's fun to use it. And honestly, any mission, first using Excalibur, it was the first warframe I chose, but once I was able to do this quest and I got Excalibur Umbra, it was now a different way to adjust. It was a little bit of adjust, not much, but just to see how you go from operator or drifter into the Excalibur Umbra. It was a slight change, but it wasn't too drastic to where you had to do a whole different playstyle. The only thing I would say is that if and when you do use a mod to go into a Warrior's Rest, it will keep him from becoming sentient. He will just rest like any other normal warframe. To me, I don't care for that. That's what makes Excalibur Umbra unique, is the fact that he can go mop on the enemy factions, whichever one they are, and you, as well as the Tenno, the warframe, can also do damage simultaneously. Now that'd be a pretty unique skill set, or technique, or however you want, ability, I guess, or passive. It's pretty neat. I enjoy it. I hope we get to see more Tenet style weapons, maybe, or more game modes for Railjack, or another type of game mode like Railjack, where you can utilize your warframes and start putting them in almost like an RPG style, where you, I don't know, how could I say this, maybe even do like a Ghost Recon Wildlands setup where you can customize your warframes, or not even customize your warframes, but what warframes you do have in your inventory, start utilizing them in said Railjack missions, or missions like a Railjack setup, where the entire ship can actually be utilized, not just 4 at a time. It would be cool to see the amount of warframes that you own being powered by your Tenno all at once on your Railjack ship, and actually perform like a real life ship where everyone has a job. And almost, I would even like to say, add some type of feature into the Railjack ship to where your Tenno can simultaneously control, or have some type of AI built into it, where your Tenno can control all the warframes, not necessarily every single one, but you can trade off or switch over from warframe to warframe depending on what warframes you put in the Railjack that are occupying, whether it's a turret, whether it's piloting the guns, engineers, repairing around the ship, creating ammo or components for the ship, the slingshot, the exterior, outside, getting sent out of the slingshot, or artillery, any of the, or even as just defenders, set amount of defenders, that'd be good. I mean, it's pretty cool to see like all these, factions have their own set of crewmates for hire, but that to me would be a much better use of your inventory of warframes. And some people have, I even go to say it's almost 100 warframes or so in their inventory. A good amount, like at least 50 to 60. Like some people collect them all, some people just collect one, but a bunch of different, or the same one, but a bunch of times. That's the thing, and it'd be cool to start utilizing all the warframes in your inventory as crewmates, where you can cycle through them on a mission. And the ones that you are not currently playing as, they're all almost like NPCs or bots that are helping you do the mission, and you get to see all of your drip out there. It's cool to see, almost like, Ghost Recon Wildlands, where you can customize your team and they all start, doing their thing, their own automatic assignment on the mission or on the ship for Railjack. That's just one of those things that I think would be a really neat feature if they did do an update or some type of rework for the Railjack, or if they did add an event or a mission type to where that could happen, where the storyline goes that the Tenno somehow is able to harness the power of controlling not just one warframe but multiple warframes. That would be another, I guess you could say, another transition or transcendence of power to show how powerful a Tenno can really be. Not just one, but multiple warframes. As when the game first came out, that's exactly what you saw. It was the warframes being controlled by who, and why was there only one person? So in my head, I thought, oh wow, that Tenno is actually controlling all 3 warframes. So in my head, I'm thinking maybe they'll eventually lead to something like that, where you can have, if it's just single player, and if you wanted to do like how they do the Spectres, you could have multiple warframes all at once out on the map. And in a sense, you actually can, but it'd be cool if it was the warframes that you actually have customized yourself that are in your inventory. So that would be pretty cool to see. Now, the Tenet Hunter, it's awesome. I really like what I did with the character. I really like what I did with the Tenno and the warframe. Now, I do like using this. It's fun to see him blast away ships on missions that are honestly hilarious when it comes to defense missions, and I see the drop ships trying to drop off the enemies. The majority of them get destroyed by the time the ship tries to drop off all the enemies, because the Tenet Envoy is just that devastating, especially in, the normal missions. Not Steel Path, even Steel Path, I'd say, does an insane amount of damage to the enemies when it is an area of effect weapon, but it's still able to produce that much blast damage and gas damage. It's actually pretty neat to see the guiding system, the guiding missile system that it does. And the Exalted Blade, as you can see in this video, it's actually just destroying hordes of enemy. They're lining up and just swinging away. It's a really cool, really fun, and awesome look, awesome colors. The way it's set up, the way I'm able to survive with the Excalibur build is fun. Like I said, when I first got him and I used him, I didn't know. I was real slow, real clunky. Real clumsy actually. I didn't know how to utilize him until I realized that the Exalted Blade is the majority of this warframe kit, and building around it was what I did. And sure enough, I did the same thing with Excalibur Umbra. Now, and Steel Path, I definitely want to build unique slots or configurations for each faction. It makes it that much more easier to deal with them, especially during missions, endgame missions, where they, cause a lot more. It definitely humbles you trying to take on Steel Path enemies, and if you don't build a certain way or make an effort to build for set mission or set enemies, and you're going to have a really tough time surviving against them, or even doing damage to set enemies, because you don't have the right mods or the right damage, or just the right survivable abilities or skills or mods for said warframes. even when I take on acolytes, it's actually the Tenet cycron. You know, I slept on it for years. Didn't know how good that weapon was, that secondary was, until, you know, I started using it with my Loki build. And yeah, the Tenet Grigori. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but that melee, the scythe melee, the Tenet scythe, it's actually really good against acolytes. I was very surprised, and of course I have a Riven, so that's going to make it even that much more powerful against enemies. I just do a lot of status damage with these weapons, and you know, they're really good. I'm surprised I get those kind of red numbers on there. You know, normally when you hit crits, yeah, they're cool. You want to see those red numbers, but you got to remember, you got to do damage. Sure, you can have red crits all day, but if you're not doing any damage, there's no point. So it is cool when I get them that high, because just knowing that if I have those red numbers, that usually means that I'm doing an insane amount of damage with said weapons, because normally it's like a yellow or orange or even that purple color. But yeah, when I start seeing those red numbers, that means I'm really high up there on the scale with how much damage each of the weapons are doing. And of course the abilities for Excalibur, Umbra, and the Operator, when I do certain, whether it's Matter Eye or the Zenurik for energy, just because I want to keep up that Exalted Blade. It does a lot of, you know, a lot of good, just keeping that Exalted Blade full of energy. So just keeping that in mind, it's actually a very fun build. Whenever I do this Corpus mission right here, it's actually pretty fun just to see how much damage that Tenet Envoy can do to the dropship. Like, as you can see here, I have my companion. It's actually one of the hounds I got from one of the sisters of Parvos that I hunted. And then there you see, you know, the Tenet Hunter with Excalibur, Umbra, a warframe, who is still shooting at the dropship after it killed all the enemies on that ship. And here he will continue. It's hilarious. It's actually a pretty funny mission. Just watching him, even after he exhausted all the ammunition off the Tenet Envoy, he still kept shooting, even though he ran out of ammo. So I was actually surprised that he didn't switch over to the Tenet Cycron, because the Tenet Cycron has unlimited ammo. You just gotta let it, you know, give it a little bit of time to charge, and it will do so. Now the Hound actually helps out with quite a bit of status. I use it mainly as a primer for the Exalted Blade and the weapons that I have for Excalibur, Umbra. But mainly, yes, the Exalted Blade. Now it doesn't really do damage, but it, like I said, it helps with procking and the element status damage. So that's actually very useful. And it's, like I said, this is, I enjoy it, and this is yeah, this is my Tenet Hunter. That's my Tenno. There, yep, there it is, the Tenet Cycron. So this is a fun build. I'm glad I was able to make this, and I have a lot of fun with the build. I have a lot of fun with the warframe. I like making little stories that go along with the character and the Tenno and the warframe that I'm able to put together. It's a really fun, I guess you could call it a hobby. Little, you know, I get a little bit of joy out of it. But yeah, this has been the Tenet Hunter character, the fan-made story, my fan-made character, you know, that I have in Warframe, and I will put more of these out. Hope you all like the video, and like and subscribe if you want to see more. Well, either way, I'm gonna still keep putting these videos out, but just because I enjoy it, it's fun. Well, this has been Tenet Hunter video, Tenno Ranger.